Into the house. Nini, welcome. I'm Queen Mother Imaku, and it's my pleasure to be with you on this Heru Nechest, Resurrection Sunday. This is a time we've been working up toward, and it's always about introspection and seeing how we can elevate in our daily lives, in our regular weekly lives, just on the regular, okay? And making purification and living a good life the what guides us. And when I say purification, I don't mean, like you're obsessed with cleansing, and I mean in terms of internal cleansing, although that's important, but more so focusing on the mind, liberation of the mind, and what can take us out of this culture that has been impressing so much negativity on us and taking us away from who we truly are, and coming into the knowledge of self, and also living the culture, living in that way so that it's a regular part of your life. Please share that we are on today, and we're going to be doing our Huey Caris. Let me pull up the chat. Please let me know if you are here. Let me also just share, if I can just take a moment to do that. Oh, this. You're probably wondering what this is. Well, we're going to be doing some sound healing today. I told you about that the last time that we were together. Sound healing is part of my training. There's a lot that I've learned and practiced and shared and haven't really told you all because it's a lot. And I'm very glad I got the excellent training that I did, but I realize it's time for me to start sharing on a larger scale, especially as we are entering back into welcoming students and also initiates. And so please, I know it's 5:31. I was hoping to be on at 5. Listen, I do all this by myself. My assistant's going to be helping me soon. Give thanks. And so I was going to be sharing. And I know I forgot something. Let me see if I can find something that's really nice and melodic to put on. Although this is kind of like that life is like a box of chocolates thing, because you truly never know what you're going to get. Not with this AI music. Let's see what love brings us. I'm always loving to talk about love. That's not really what I'm looking for. Let's see if I flow with this for a little while. I'm going to shuffle. Let's see what comes. Nope. How about we try... Let's try lounge. Let's see if we get something good with lounge. Yeah, see, I just need to be uploading all my new music. That's what I really need to do. I'm not feeling this. Let's see what's on acoustic. Hopefully some nice guitar music. Hopefully. None of these fit the categories. Does this sound like acoustic to you? No. Let's try jazz. So funny, I had everything set. The one thing I didn't have set was my music. I don't know what kind of jazz that is. Let's try ambient. Okay, let me turn my volume down on my phone so this way I'm not hearing myself. And let's... Perhaps we should do this without the music, shall we? I think. Yes. And back to the chat. Who's here? Who is here? On all the different platforms. And, I have to say that one thing that takes time, Root Trackers, hey, cuz, how you doing? Back from Ethiopia, you got to call me. You got to tell me all about it. Yes, I'm going to share. Please share that we are on the air. And I see myself here. Please like, share, and subscribe. Cousin, I'm very excited to hear about the fact that you went to your Ethiopian trip. That must have really been so fulfilling. Oh my goodness. All right, so let's do group. And thankful for life, thankful for life, thankful for life. Oh my, okay. All of the pathways of heaven and earth are open to me. All of the pathways of heaven and earth are open to me. All of the pathways of heaven and earth are open to me. Y'all remember that? I started to play it today. And I'm gonna do one more share. I'm gonna go back to my my profile page. Thank you for your patience. We during the week, first time in the motherland. Oh, okay. Happy birthday weekend. Do what you gotta do. Okay. Very deep experience. I can't wait to hear. I can't wait. Please tell your hubby, cuz, that I said Heru Mesut Hari, which means happy birthday. Give thanks. Okay. Oh wow. And as I open up to the cousins on my other side of the family, they went to our retreat, which I was gonna go to, but it turned out I wasn't able to go at the last minute. Wow. Okay. I am, excuse me, drinking water. Have your water ready? Oh my. Okay. One more share here, and I'll be good to go. Let's do this. Okay. Thank you again all for your patience. That's right. Yes. Haruma Sudhari. Okay. And again, you share too, please, that we are here on the air. Okay. Blessings, 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 blessings to all. And I'm hoping that you all having a wonderful family day, no matter what that looks like for you. I'm hoping that is a day that's full of blessings and joy and love and peace. Excuse me. Okay. Just a few more. Okay. All right. And okay. I think that's good. Yeah. Got all my students, I think, just about. And that'll work for now. And excuse me. So, how has your day been before we dive in? I want to remind you we're going to be doing Huid Kares. So, if you don't have a red beverage, then please grab one. You don't have anything that's red, then water will be fine. And also a small little piece of bread. Okay, that will come toward the end. And post. See, this is the kind of stuff I need an assistant for, right? Okay. And that's the last. And now I'm going to turn my phone off. Okay. All right. So let's get started. Let's pray into our water. Let's say loving words, because we should feel that because we are part of the divine, that we are worth loving. And let's remind ourselves that we should live a life that is worth loving. And so we say mer, which means love, nefret, which means goodness, success, beauty, um, heru, awake, nechest, resurrected. What does that mean to us? You got your hibiscus? Yeah, I've got. See, that's what I made too. I made my hibiscus, my Jamaican hibiscus as well. Joanne, good to see you. Give thanks and praise. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, and take some sips of your water. As you program your water, then we're able to program ourselves, as the water in your vessel will match the water in your vessel. Okay. All right. I would like right now to take a few moments just to settle in. We'll do our libation and then get ready for us to do our sound healing. And then we'll get into the message. Today, I will be doing also the Sashat Oracle, the Suru Sashat. We haven't had that in quite a while, and it's time for us to get back into that as well. And today, with calling on the ancestors, I want you to remember something. I shared last time about how when you do positive acts, it helps to pull those in your bloodline up higher, those who have transitioned. And even the positive effect that it has on those on earth can be quite profound too, because if they notice a change in you, they notice that you're living a life that's exemplary and inspiring, then it makes them want to do better. You know, just like if you go over to another relative's house and you see that it's gorgeous, right? You're going home to a hovel. you want to have the nice house. So you start to put things in line so you can make that happen. You have that as a new goal. So it's the same for our ancestors who are on the other side, who are resting, who are watching. There are those who actively help us, yes. But many are learning something new if you've chosen a path that's going to help clean things up. If you're living a really wonderful life, if you're living a life that is beautiful, that is pure and happy, then it helps to pull them up too. Just like I shared about the story of Heru last week when he became Herukuti, when he came into his wisdom, well, into the knowledge of the fact that his life was not just for him. His desire to be rightful king was not just for him. It was for his father, who was languishing in the Duat, Asar or Wasir, who the Greeks called Osiris. It was for the family members that had helped him, his community that helped him, and also for the people of Kemet. Your actions have such a great impact on your world on so many levels and all the worlds within it. So for your ancestors, they benefit from your good actions, because then you can continue to evolve together in Shenu, in your circle, in Senwit, Impet, Menta, your heavenly and earthly circle of colleagues and friends. Okay, and uh, it's a wonderful but awesome responsibility. So think of all those that you want to see elevated. And let me just remind you also, death does not automatically make you an ancestor, and it does not automatically make you wise. If there are those that you are still praying for who you know lived lives that were not cool, then you can continue to pray for them. Those are not the ones you put on your altar. Those are not the ones you call on, but you pray for them as they observe and learn and do what they can energetically to correct themselves so they can become fully an ancestor, so that way they're able to contribute to the positive energy of your circle, and also so they're able to become resurrected in peace. Okay, so as I'm pouring the water, we're going to do a little different today. This water is nourishing to your ancestors. I want you to call out those who have benefited you, those who have given you love, those who have contributed to the community in a way that is healing, positive, inspiring. Give thanks and praise for all of my ancestors and calling, first starting with the maternal line. Simmons Blackman, Bridgen, Exum, Anderson, Artis, Ortiz, Lloyd Yates, McLaughlin, Myers, Murray, Salmon, O'Whitley, Mayfield, Lloyd Mayfield. And hold your vessel. You're going to take it and pour it into a plant or pour it outside, especially in front of your front door. Duau, duau, duau. Do not drink your ancestor water, okay? Giving thanks and praise. Because they were, we are. Let us never forget that. Now, let's do some meditative work on this day of resurrection. In our tradition, resurrection, the potential for resurrection is every day. We use sound healing to help to kind of pull ourselves together, help to center and ground ourselves, help to elevate our vibrations, and also to help us with achieving a goal by meditating on what we want to see happen. Okay, let's take a deep breath in. Sarek. Nifa. Sarek. Nifa. Sarek. Nifa. Relax your breathing. This is a tongue drum, a beautiful tongue drum, and let's let it speak to us. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Relax your breathing. How's everyone? This is known as a rain tongue drum. You can literally sit this out in your garden or outside your door when it's raining, and you'll hear beautiful music, giving thanks and praise. All right. So before we go any further, let me just ask, what does, oh, well, thank you, Joanne. Thank you. Being a musician is one of the joys of my life. But I tell you that doing things from a healing standpoint is everything, everything to me. And for those of us who are dedicated to whatever path of spirituality that we're on that is about promoting healing, then you find that everything you do is with greater consciousness, and also you really want to be able to connect with other people and make them feel better, whether it's giving them a chance to relax, giving them a chance to smile, to laugh, giving them a chance to get in touch with their feelings. That's what this is about. And we'll talk more about that in a bit. So what does resurrection mean to all of you? Did you see the the meme that I put up regarding today's message? Yes, so you see that on the meme, the main image that I selected was of the pylon. For those of you who don't know what a pylon is, the pylon is sort of a protective facade that has a doorway in the middle, as you see here. And the pylon is a barrier to those who are outside, and it's imposing for a reason. This particular pylon is from Edfu, and there are many words for pylon in the Kemetic language, but the one that I chose that felt fitting for today was Bekhen-t. Well, yes, because it means gate, it means house, it means pylon. Now, the pylon, of course, is a structure that is, it can be a couple of pillars. You know, you have the jejedu, which, or even tetet, or tetu, and that means the double pillars of the pylon. But in this case, the reason I chose this particular word, because like I said to you last time, the Kemetic language is vast. You know, building your vocabulary and writing praise poems and poetry and so forth, it's such a wonderful challenge because it's huge. But what felt appropriate for today, because it is what is known as Resurrection Sunday to most of the world, and what we acknowledge as Bekhen-t, which is Resurrection Day. The word Bekhen-t, because the root word has several meanings. Bek, to give birth, to produce. Bek also means to give light, to light up, to illumine. Bekhen-nu means a fortified town. So, you know, like we've got enclosed towns. Today we know them as gated communities, right? And I was talking with a relative today about how I went to visit my aunt and uncle, and had never been at their house, and they live in a truly gated community. I mean, they're in there. And usually when you think of gated communities, you think of maybe, condominium establishment, or a particular building, or maybe just a few streets, or a street with like a cul-de-sac that you have to go through a gate to get into. But no, this is a whole little town that they have that you can't easily get into. I mean, you talk about a fortress, right? So what's the purpose of it? What's the purpose? So if you come to a place where you are what is known as awake. There are many words for awake. There's resi, there is neches, there are many others. But when you come to a place where you realize in your life that it's different, your way of seeing things is different, you've become truly illuminated, because now you've learned something about something that's external and what your beliefs were about it. But above all, when it comes to the process of awakening, you learn something new about yourself. You're not the person that you thought you were. That can rattle a lot of people, especially depending on how old you are. You know, you go along, you're doing your thing based on what you have learned from your environment, from the people around you, from now you have media. It used to be a lot of people would learn how to behave from watching movies, which is really kind of sad, because much of what we see in cinema is just not real life. Well, the way it used to be. I mean, still you have a lot of fantasy stuff, and you have more things that depict the way that it should be. But there are a lot of people who learn how to be based on the images that they see. I knew somebody who was obsessed with the show House. How many of y'all remember House? That medical show? Look, it was a really great show because of the acting, but it was irritating to me all the time because of the fact that House was a jerk. He was brilliant, but he was a jerk. He probably was somewhere on the spectrum. I don't know. I mean, because we run from being super nice to being jerks. Okay. All right. But by the same token, the hospital had to put up, well, they chose to put up with his obnoxious behavior because he was brilliant and they needed him. But that's not the way it is in life all the time. And so this individual, because the fact that he really didn't know how to be himself, he didn't know who he was constantly copying those who he thought that he should emulate. With House, he got away with being a jerk, right? And so there are so many people who will see folks in government, in the world, on TVs as TV characters or movie characters, where they are absolutely the dregs of society. They are so horrible in the way they relate to people, but they get away with it because they either have a certain level of expertise in something, or they just know how to keep getting over. That's not a good idea, okay, to follow people like that. Trey Markell says to keep others who are different out. Oh, you're talking about the pylon. Well, it's not so much about keeping others who are different out, but in a way, it is about keeping others who are different out. That it's not meaning that it's automatically prejudicial. It's not looking and saying, oh, well, they don't have the hair the way that ours is, and so I'm not going to let them in. It is about first being accepted in, because you've gone to the level where it's recognized that you're welcomed in. The way that people are walking into the ancient temples in Kemet now, it would never have happened. Never. There was a courtyard where the general population was allowed, and then there were various levels in. And when it came to this level, the general populace could not go in. When it came then to the next level, only certain priests were allowed to go in. Then the next level, and so on and so on. You said, yes, resurrection to me means to come back anew or to be reborn into something better. That's absolutely it. Yes. We need to remember that once you become awakened and you actually feel contrition, there's a word in the Kemetic language for contrition. There are a couple actually, but the one that I really appreciate is ishafit. Ishafi. It means to break, and it means contrition. Now, this doesn't mean that you want to get like smashed down, like no, pounded down. No. However, on a certain level, you do kind of go through that. If you're really willing to make changes in who you are, you have to break old habits. Sek means to break. And in order to overcome, you have to leave certain things behind. Now, if you come to a place that is holy, sacred, desher, they're not going to let anybody walk up in there. Just like you're very particular about who you let in your house. You hear me talking all the time about who I let in my house. Not many people. And it's not because I'm saying I'm holier than thou, but it's because I have a certain standard that I expect. There also needs to be a meeting of minds and understanding of culturally how, you have home training. That's one thing. And then knowing that you can't just go walking up in somebody's spot and just do what you want to do. No. Come in breaking their stuff. I remember when I was a kid, there was this woman, she was a girl at the time. She reminds me of, oh gosh, there's a TV star when she was young. It was a child star. She had like dirty blonde hair and freckles, but she was being raised by her father, and her father had a problem. But she was just wild. And so we were raised to not let everybody in, okay? But she busted her way up into our house. She saw the door open and just, and then I don't know how she had some rocks in her pocket. She went into the bathroom and she's jumping around in the bathtub and throwing rocks in the bathtub. I mean, we had to really work to get her out of there. There was something really wrong with her. It was a shame because of the fact that she was a very smart, very pretty girl. But she was always in trouble and always looking to get you in trouble, right? So that was her first and last time back in the house. And I'd never seen anything like that. I was just really, as a kid, just floored by that. But it's the same thing when you have adults that come in your house and don't know how to act. So it's with a temple, with a sacred space, and you're trying to grow. You're trying to become a better person. So you are not going to all of a sudden become awakened and have contrition and realize that you need to change and then go back to the same people who share your habits, your bad habits. Whether it is addiction, and unfortunately, we have a lot of people who come to ATRs and to ancient ancestral indigenous practices who come and bring their addictions with them, and they just change partners. So the religion becomes their new addiction, but they have not changed inside because they have not gone through the steps necessary to change. So as a result, we have a lot of people who have still not really dealt with their addiction issues, whether it's alcohol, hard drugs, soft drugs, food, alcohol, just, and they will do enough to get by so they can hang around people and kind of get over. But when you want to go to the next level, at some point, if you're around people who are um, um, living at a place of integrity, and who have not just become priests or priestesses overnight, then you're going to be either given a warning about getting it together or being put out, or they'll just put you out. Now, if you're around other people who are helping to sustain your bad habits and they are claiming to be in the tradition, then you need to look at that too. Because not everybody who is in spiritual culture is there yet. And because we have this, what I call McInitiations, and where people just automatically after 4 months, you're initiated. A year and a day, you're initiated. And you can't really change 9 times out of 10 and really take on the full, not just the patterning of the culture, because people can mimic, okay, but where it's in you, blood and bone. A year and a day is not going to do it. Now, listen, I've been there. In the Kemetic tradition, I have to say it's been a process of figuring out what works. 3 to 5 months, no. And I was never down with that. But I did what was put before me in a few other traditions where you do a year and a day, right? But then still you're told, okay, go out there and put up your shingle and do your thing. Well, you can't possibly have the information that you need in order to fully function as a priest by doing that. Most people don't go to college for a year and then get all the honors and accolades and degrees. No. So then I remember when I went to 19 months. And the only reason it was 19 months was because I was so sick and tired of my initiates, because there were some pretty unscrupulous people. And that was the year when I finally understood, excuse me, that not everybody is coming to this to become better people. They will say and do whatever they need to do to graduate and become initiated and get that title and get that ankh. But there were still dastardly people. Now, I had a great, the last great class before that I had was 2011. Most of them were really just wonderful people, and I was very glad to graduate them. But later I came to realize, especially because the fact that being initiated as a Nanga and the relationship that I ended up forming with my my godfather, may he rest in peace, Don Miguel Ortiz Hill, that it had to be fleshed out more. And even though I'd been initiated a couple times in the tradition, still the fact that there needed to be stronger structure, right? And Trey Markell says that's in so many ATRs. Yes, they only want the title and the authority that comes with it. That's the truth, because I've been hearing so many folks from various ATR traditions who have been talking about that. It's a problem. It's gotten worse because of the internet and because people are looking for instant gratification and don't have the patience to stick it out. And on top of that, all right, say you get let in. The pylon, okay, the narrow door, you go in. I was thinking of the where it says in the Bible about going, it's more difficult for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to go into heaven. But it was the whole thing about the narrow doorway. People think that we're talking about a literal needle and a little eye that's on it. No. Back then, narrow doorways going into a new city had what was the equivalent to sort of like a pylon and a door and a little teeny door that you had to go through, or a little narrow cutout passageway, right? Not everybody could just bust up in there. So now we're back to the pylon. Okay, this is the facade of a temple, and also letting you know this is a grandiose place. It is a grandiose place, and you better check yourself. Be grateful if we allow you to set foot in here. You see also that there is a long, narrow passageway. road. Let me pull this back up. You see there's a road that's leading up to it. There's the one door. Then beyond that, there's another door. Yes. Okay. And see, this is actually supposed to emulate the Akhet. The Akhet is associated with Akeru, which is the two lions that are back to back. Well, they're back to back and they're facing different directions. One is facing east, the other facing west. And the sun is resting upon their backs. So they are protecting that illumination. The illumination represents your soul. It's being protected. So the idea is that once you go in, okay, you're in this first level. While you're out here, we got you, right? Just make sure you do your part. You don't act a fool, okay? Like you're not going to pull down your drawers and defecate over in the corner, okay? Just make sure that you're on point. Then it becomes clear, wow, I'm even more awake. Now, you have a choice. Anytime you come to a place of awakening, you have a choice. You can go forward, you can stand still, or you can go backward. Imagine being allowed into this very exclusive place that's going to hook you up. It's going to help you out. All you have to do is have the tenacity and the humility to get through it. It means shedding what you know so you can take on what you don't know so that you can apply it to your life and become a better person. Okay, you're all happy because you're in the first level. You've gotten in. Your ego says, oh, I got to go tell a bunch of people. And you leave. And you're hanging on to the whole thing that you were let in at the first level. Okay, listen, maybe that's where you need to be. Hey. But what if it's not? And now you look like you're somebody because of the fact that you got in. Wow, you got it? They let you in? Wait, you, and the next door to, what? Eventually, somebody's going to say, why did you leave? What was beyond that? I don't know. Yeah, you don't know. Because you didn't stick around long enough to find out. Or because you didn't want to act right, so to speak. Because you didn't want to humble yourself and learn. And to find out where you fit in and see, unfortunately, people don't understand. As you humble yourself and learn and give thanks and praise, you want to have the right instructors. Okay, people who are not just knowledgeable, but also wise. A lot of people with a lot of information here in the world and on the internet, but that doesn't mean they have wisdom. It's great to be an intellectual. It's great to be a scholar. It's great to love learning. It's great to know a lot of stuff. But how does it apply to your life? And is it making you a better person? And are you helping others to become better people? Not by showing off what you know, but by applying it in a way that it truly becomes who you are. You get it. You get it. As you stay on the journey, because you see that temple with the pylons and you see the doors, that represents the journey, the walkway leading up to it. That's your wisdom road. Then you get accepted in. And let me tell you, what's above the door there is what is known as Bekhen-t. I meant to bring my Bekhen-t. I almost had everything over here. I have a Bekhen-t over my doors. Many of us in the tradition do. It is the winged disc. It is the symbol of Heru, or Heru the elder, but he is awakened and he is elevated. Having that over your door shows, hey, you come in here, you're protected, right? But you left. Okay. But that doesn't give you bragging rights just because you got in. Not at all. There's certainly people who are only supposed to go so far, but that doesn't mean that you are granted all the rights and privileges to a title that puts you in charge of other people or puts you in charge of other situations where you are sharing the culture. Doesn't mean that. And priesthood certainly has so many roads. You can be a sacred cook, right? You can be a scholar. You can be there are sacred warriors, there are prayer warriors, there were ritualists. You know, there were those who were in charge of doing the prayers and rituals necessary for opening up the temple every day and then closing it. And then there are those who were musicians. They were the sacred musicians and dancers and singers. Then there are the physicians, the Zunut, right? But you got to know where you fit in. You get in, but then ultimately you should find out once you're there where you fit in. And if you don't have that patience, and also where you're, you know, oh, I'm a healer, okay, and you've taken Reiki or whatever, but you still got a stank personality. I mean, I'm very particular about who does healing work on me. And that's because of the fact that I work with energy that's very high, but also because I remember one time I had this woman years ago. She did Reiki on me, and she was saying, you know, you have a very high vibration, but you're just like too much up here, too much in the ethers. You know, you need to just kind of have the energy brought down, you know, more into your roots so you're more grounded. And I'm thinking, I don't see where I have a problem, right? But I went along with it, even though I was thinking, and I'm listening to how she's talking to people, and I'm thinking, I don't know how to get out of here. And simply because I did not know how to leave, I let her work on me, and she jacked me up. It's easy to get certified as a Reiki master. It doesn't mean that you're really a Reiki master. Okay? It's easy to get certified as a yogini. Doesn't mean you're really a yogini if you're not living the life. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Anecharech, nut mesut nut mut. I know yours is Nasut Mut. Nasut Mut Chenzira Kahina. Thank you so much for being here. Lack of patience combined with lack of authentic loyalty, integrity, respect, and life-centered willingness to maintain ma'at with longevity. Short version in this public platform. Wow, we are stating the same vibration as you teach, as we're and what Dwal Netra. New era of ATRs, initiatory wise counsel in Shepsu Anku in Paut Necharu in effect. Grateful for this reasoning. Duau for that. Duau. Yeah, this is a time of really re-examining all of our practices. I had a long conversation with a very highly respected and renowned scribe in our community, and you know he has been tasked with doing something ceremonial that's a big deal. And he was saying how he realized the importance of what he was doing because it was setting a tone. And I said, it's absolutely so vital and wonderful that you have recognized that and you realize that what you're doing is setting a precedent for future generations, for now and for future generations, because you see, we're still figuring this out. Those of us who are doing the research, and I have to tell you, I have found that there's been great benefit in the fact that I've been in other traditions along with this one, even though this is my foundation. It wasn't first my foundation, but even going back to Christianity, when I started studying the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance and started realizing that word doesn't mean that. Wait, this word really means this? That changes the whole meaning of this scripture. I mean, that's what really got my juices going because I wanted to know the truth. We can interpret or misinterpret based on our own personal prejudices, our own short-sightedness, lack of knowledge, and also easy misperception of things. Because if you don't know, then you're just going to take a stab at things. When you are able to really study and even be part of other traditions, in doing the reclamation for the Heipi Valley traditions, you find it is absolutely necessary because you start seeing, hey, wait a minute. Okay, so I went through this initiation in this tradition, but then you go back and you start looking in the Kemetic language and you start finding, hey, wait a minute, this is here. This is here. And even one of the initiations that I went through was a big deal, which I didn't expect it to be. It was like it was this big deal. And but I found that my initiators, because a lot of them weren't originally from here, they were saying things to me like, so Queen Mother, well, I may not do the accent because you'll know. Do you have this in the Kemetic tradition? I'm like, yeah. I'm looking at the different things that they have out, the sacred objects and so forth, and the different things that we would do. Do you do that? Do the Kemites, do you do that? Yeah. It's called such and such. Yeah, we have that. People like to think that they're so exclusive in everything, and then somehow feel disappointed when they find that, no, you ain't the only game in town. And we need to go back and we need to do the Sankofa moment, okay, which is also the Akeru moment, which acknowledges the past and bringing it into today for the future. We need that so that we can figure it out. We all have these different digits, okay, and we need them on both hands so we can understand. So that includes studying Hebrew, yes, which I've done and still dip back into when I need to. Why? Because those who were called the Hebrews, they lived amongst the Kemites. Anybody who flowed into the Hapi Valley or lived there in permanent settlements or were welcomed in, but with the understanding, if you're going to stay here, that means you got to live according to our ways. And if not, then bye. Okay, they're very strict on that. Why? Again, standards. But basically, anybody who flowed into or out of or lived permanently in or migrated out of the Hapi Valley, and that includes also studying the different traditions that are in the Hapi Valley as well. Remember, it wasn't just Kemet. All of this is vital for our truly resurrecting this tradition. And for those of us who have been in the way for so long and have seen the changes along the way and recognize the growth that has happened, but also looking at what has not worked. 3-month initiation doesn't work. 5-month, 6-month doesn't work. Year doesn't work. In Shenu, I'm announcing this now for sure so that you understand. Our process is a 7-year process, which is not unlike many other ATRs. 7, because it's the divine number of wisdom. 7, because it's the number associated with so many of our Netrut, the female guardians. We are a water temple. 7 is the number associated with water. But with each level, there is something that is attained. And then if you want to go on, then that's cool. Okay. Again, it doesn't mean that you get to go have bragging rights like a lot of people do. Like I see, you take one class and then you make it seem like you were initiated by that person, but you just took one class and are using that little bit of information, or, I had some healing work done by this high priest and so you've attached yourself to that from 1 or 2 healing experiences because you're trying to big yourself up and give yourself credibility because you don't want to put in the work. All of this that I present to you is based on the work and dedication to the work. My 8 means consistency. Okay, listen. Okay, I have some problems with coming on at the same time, but that's because I'm doing the work. In the morning, every morning, I have my series of prayers and rituals that I do every single morning. That is a mainstay. That does not change. And then also based on the day that it is, I may have to give, there are different guardians I have to address on certain days. Today was Sunday. So that meant that I had to change out the water in Kenemu because this is his day. Also because the beginning of the week in the Besu, the Beset and Besu um, 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 good Lord, altar. We have a word for that. They usually kaut. Yes, getting older. And then also this is the day I swap out the water for my ancestor kaut. And there's certain things I do with the water. It's not that I don't just pour it down the drain, okay? And that takes time. And then cleaning my house every day takes time. I do extra cleaning on Sundays because it's the beginning of the week. Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. And, you can give yourself some grace if you're really busy and, you're not really on top of it and, you still need to get to it. But still, just to make sure that everything energetically is standing tall during those times because you know what each of those days stands for. Wednesday, I address Beset and Besu again because why? Wednesday is the day for mercurial energy and their messengers, but that's also when I deal with the Simbi. It's like that. Tuesday is a special day designated for this, for Renenet and Renenutet and, but so I'm not like just lollygagging over here. And then when I allow myself to go and do certain things, like yesterday I went to an event that was lovely, that was out in New York, and I'm figuring, I'm just gonna bop over there for a little while and just come right back. Oh no, no. It took longer to travel out there. It took longer to get home. I thought I was gonna be home by like 7 o'clock. I got home about 10 o'clock. And I used to push myself just to, okay, now I gotta do this. And I've learned not to do that because it breaks my body down, and why make myself sick? So, you feel that, Joanne? So, but and this is the thing that also always pulls me in, because I do research every single day, every day. And I want to make sure that I understand what I'm seeing. And usually it's like going down a rabbit hole, And I mentioned I forgot to mention about the rabbit the other day, and how that is traced back to Kemet too. That's Wunut. Wunut is the way opener. You think about rabbits that go down holes, and they go in deep. This is Wunut. Wunut can take you in deeply into various places if you allow. But she is a way opener. We have many way openers in Kemetic tradition, but she is definitely one. And so anyway, but going back to the dedication that is required in order to be in the tradition. Now, I do enjoy presenting things in a way that everybody can pull from. And I'm not trying to beat people up and say, you should be Kemetic. I'm not saying that. And in our practice, we call it Shenu. And when we refer to the Kemetic faith, we spell it with K-H, K-H-A-M-E-T-I-C. And that's all a matter of branding. Generally each temple, by the way, they spell Kemet. You do. Some is K-M-T. Some is K-E-M-E-T. Others is K-A-M-E-T. Others is K-A-M-I-T. Okay? Some spell it the way that we do, K-H-A-M-E-T. And there's also another reason, because when it comes to our brand of Kemetic yoga, we had to change the spelling because it's trademarked. Okay? And so the brother who chose to trademark it, listen, I got to respect that. It was a surprise to the community. It was a shock to the community, to be very honest with you. It really was. But still, it's like, okay, so listen, if that's the case, I can't step on that. Even though, we've had Kemetic for a long time, but if that's the brand, then so be it. So, and I'm not one, I won't fight unless I absolutely have to. And that's not a fight. No problem. We'll be K-H-A-M. K-H-A-M means to have positive influence over somebody anyway. So, with the K-M-E-T, the KMT or KEM, and KAM, that refers to Black. We still consider ourselves, in that category. And KMMU, that was the Black people, okay? And this tradition started in ancient Black Africa. And so we still acknowledge that, yeah, he trademarked it. Yeah. Listen, you do what you need to do, and you keep it moving. So, I don't like discord in our community. And even though there are people who've tried to start all kinds of fights with me, I'm like, you're punching shadows, and it's your own shadow. Okay, I'm not fighting with you. You trying to pull people have tried to pull. Okay, let me get to this, because all right, you get to a place you're really focused. You're really focused. There are always going to be people who try to distract you, who try to pull you back where you were, or even if you've never been there, pull you into a level that's going to make them feel good because of the fact that you're not the glistening person that they thought you were, and you're just living your life. People will have all kinds of imaginings about you. They don't know you. People who see me here, I try to be as transparent as I possibly can be. I'm not a perfect person. I've never claimed to be, right? But I hope I inspire. I hope I inspire people. I don't think I'd be too inspiring if I was sitting up here in a dirty house, and everything all mismatched, and and that would go against the guardians who own my head. So, but even so, in our tradition, we believe in things being clean. So how are you to believe what I'm trying to share with you if my life is not consistent with what I'm trying to share? With what we believe. Yeah, crabs in a bucket. Absolutely. Yeah, people who just really just want to pull you down. Now, what happens if you allow yourself to get pulled down, or other people just pull you down? And you have to be aware of the fact that there's a seduction that goes along with it. People will test you. And it's really not much different than when you see people who are grooming. We hear a lot about grooming online now. All these people who get pulled in to, well, they're trying to just be in show business, right? And I can't say that I've never seen this. I've seen it. I've been tested. People have tried to see if I would do the casting couch. Have tried to see if they could pull me into all kinds of other stuff, right? But I was always the person minding my business. I remember I was on the road doing a show, a very well-known show, and all these celebrities would come backstage, right? So I hated that. I really did, because I just wanted to get out of my makeup and walk back to my hotel room and climb into bed. That was all I wanted. Instead, I had to wait, do a little cheesecake, and it was at that point, when I realized too, this is not my life. This is not the life that I want, because it was just so superficial. In fact, we were in Hollywood. If you've never been to Hollywood, whew, you can tell who's had plastic surgery just by walking down the street. People just talking. They can barely part their lips, and like it's just normal. It's a sad place. It's a very sad place. And so I wasn't impressed with celebrities coming afterwards and all that. I did the appropriate publicity, fun pictures with them and so forth. But then I just left everybody else there who were schmoozing with them and exchanging phone numbers. I just went and took off my makeup and walked back to my hotel. There was a situation also where we were traveling and passing around pornography, naked dudes, very well endowed naked dudes, as I was told. And so they kept trying to pass to me. You want to see? No. Then next round, you don't want to see, right? No, I don't. And then if you don't go along, you get punished. Usually they'll not give you all your money, right? They play games with you. If I can't be around people who live in a place of integrity all the time, then I don't want to be there, you know. And then also another warning, because of the fact that we're on the internet, it's very easy for people to stalk you. I've had that happen a few times. People watch you and watch you. And then, you know, I've started to be more guarded about sharing where I go and if I do. You know, back in the day, it used to be, you know, selfie here, you know. But now, especially on IG, y'all don't see me up there. That's because y'all don't need to know everything I'm doing. Because I would have people show up who were stalkers. Not fun. And same way, same thing. They'll test you and they'll worm their way into your life. A really popular thing to do is to either call or text, and then get in a conversation, start dropping all these little things that maybe were huge things to you. You know, oh, the same thing happened to me. You know, oh, I have a child on the spectrum, so I understand about being on the spectrum. And then, you know, later you get to know, it's like, what happened to your kid? It was just a way in. Okay, you're saying that you've had this happen to you that also happened to me. And then the story keeps changing. They're just looking for a way in. They're looking to gain your trust. And it's frightening. Because if you're coming from a place of being a really good person and you genuinely want to help people, then you're not thinking this may not be somebody who I need to have around me, you know? It is wild and sad. Yes, indeed, Trey, it is. It is. So now I am really on guard. I always tell people to read The Art of War. You may not think of yourself as a warrior, but you need to be. Especially if you're on the spiritual path, you need to understand spiritual warfare. You need to be able to recognize who your enemies are. You need to understand when people are being manipulative and when to cut it off before it gets to be ugly, before it becomes a relationship, a pseudo friendship, before you take on people as students. And this is why also I have been extremely careful about who I let study with me now. I've been burned way too many times. And then people who go all the way get their ankh. They're supposed to continue and work with the temple and alleviate your load. And they just take their ankh and keep getting up and block you on social media and act like they just birthed themselves. Okay. That's another thing. When you become initiated, you know, I remember it used to be, we put up all the pictures and so forth, but all it did was make the initiates a target. People who were watching and who were jealous would come for them. And especially if they knew their lives before, and they would do everything to pull them back into their former lives. That's why it's important to make sure you're rooted and grounded. And that's why it has to take more time to get to priesthood. Now, also the other thing is when you are let inside, people have to see if you are loyal. Listen, Reverend Tamu, wait a minute. I'm just going to keep your name by the phone. You're Ren. Duo for being here. Let me say this. When you're on the internet, and it's cool if you're checking to see if this is your path, or maybe there's something that feeds you, right? And I appreciate that. I shared with you last time that I'm not trying to shove this down your throat, and you take what you need and leave the rest, okay? But if you're really investigating this, and the gig is one of the words for investigation, to investigate something, which sounds like dig, right? If you're really digging and checking to see if this is for you, then that means that you need to spend dedicated time really addressing that and not doing Russian roulette all over the internet. So, I mean, there are people who will join classes here and here and here, and each of the teachers are thinking that you're committed. You're giving the impression that they're committed. and that they are the solid, and that they are addressing you as a solitary teacher, but they're bopping around, they're trying out this, they're trying out that, and unfortunately, this is sort of a new age thing, because with the new age, it's all about just doing what makes you feel good, doing what you feel like doing, not having a real sense of discipline, self-discipline. And I've shared with you all over and over again the story about how when I went into into ministry, and I just didn't want to, because that meant that I was going to have to show up at classes and be consistent instead of just coming to church service whenever I felt like it. It was really tough. And then again, I got the last laugh. As I've shared with you before, I didn't take the final test because I was just like, okay, well, that'll get me out of this. I'm not going to take the test. Fortunately, I should say, all of the elders who were on the board knew very well what I knew. And they knew I didn't need no test. One of the elders said to me after I called him, and I was like, why is my name on the graduation list? And he said, you didn't need to take a test. We already knew what you knew. Okay. That test was nothing. Okay. So, yeah. So my thing was, they were helping me to face my destiny. They were. And even within that framework, I was exposed to a lot. I learned a lot. And as a result, have mastered a lot because of the classes that we had to take. Just like when you go into any school and you have required classes you must take. So it's not the same as just kind of like jumping around from here and there, because, well, this will sound good, right? I remember I had a Queen Mother class before the pandemic, and somebody said, oh, okay, I'm going to take that. The title of Queen Mother will sound rather nice. Yes. It's not about the title. It's not. In fact, let me publicly thank you, Reverend Tamu. And let me get your, oh, look at this picture of me from 10 years ago. I look fly. This came up on my Facebook feed. Anyway, it's so funny. Like, you don't realize how you look. At the time, you're just thinking you're schlepping through. But then, you look back later, it's like, oh, wow. Had I known, I'd have skipped that other relationship with this person altogether. Anyway, so Reverend Tamu, and let me call you by your, I have it in the phone. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why I need to thank you. As we're talking about the Queen Mother title, and as we have another Queen Mother who is on the line with us, Sabayit Iamet Shebsit. So I go through these phases where I just want to get rid of the Queen Mother title. I do. In fact, I started to play the previous opening that I had for this podcast, and it's lovely. It's short. It's got a snippet of this of the song, Uno Watet Neb Bekhen-t that I would usually sing in the beginning. But it got to the end of the clip, and it said with Imaku. And I said, I can't use it. I have to fix that. The Queen Mother title is not one that you take lightly. And it's not one that you can just take for yourself. There's a ceremony involved. And there's a commitment that's involved. Unfortunately, there are people who are scamming a lot of sisters on the continent because the way it's set up there, once they give you that title, then you are obligated to take care of their community. So it's like a money grab for them. And you're feeling all special with this installment ceremony and all this. But then after that, they got you on the bite, okay? Whether it's a school, whether it's a town, a community, but you've got the title. And that's not what it's supposed to be about. So, Sabayit Iamet Shepsit, thank you for the conversation that we had, because we were talking about classes, but first I'd shared with her, just a one up. I've been really thinking about this, and I'm going to drop the Queen Mother title. And I went on to explain why, because there's been such desecration of it in the lineage that I came through. I had no idea about it until after my initiator passed away, and then all of this stuff came out. And I didn't want to be associated with that. A lot of people assumed that because I was given the Queen Mother title through this person, that I was associated with that. And it was not pretty. And so I was so disgusted. I said, I'm just, listen, Imaku, that's a title, okay? People think it's my Kemetic name, but it's a title. It means one who is honored, but also means one who is in service. That's the main thing. One who is in service to the community and to the divine. Reverend, okay? It's the term that we use for an ordained minister. That means so much to me. The Queen Mother title, I kept having a hard time with. One, it means more work, and you have more eyes on you, and you have others who just can't get with that. It's like, you're not my Queen Mother. I'm not going to call you Queen Mother. Okay, so now you're insulting cultural tradition. The Queen Mother title goes back to ancient Africa and is found throughout the diaspora. Yeah, it did not start in Europe. But it was bestowed upon me because of the work that I was already doing in the community, because the scholarship that I've applied in advancing our tradition forward based on the research that I was doing and teaching, and because, as I was told, my character made me worthy of the title. And so I was installed in 2005. I was installed in 2005. So this is my 20th anniversary of being a Queen Mother. So something came up where this whole thing with all the skullduggery that's been in the resurrection of the attempted resurrection of the Kemetic community, because there's been a lot of foul stuff that's happened. I'll be very honest with you. Okay. Well, some of you even know. And listen, I'm just trying to truly live according to my creed. That's all. That's enough. And don't try to pull me into something that I'm not about. I was tested, even with that. Yes, I didn't realize that's what was going on at the time. But people, I think, eventually realized, oh, you can't sway her. And I'd be surprised to find out different things along the way. What do you mean? People have Kemetic brothels? What? I mean, yeah. I mean, the stuff has been it's just crazy. So I cut the community off and just kept focused on the work that I needed to do and the life that I needed to live. So once again, something came up after a long conversation with somebody. And so that was like, that's it. I'm just going to dump the Queen Mother title. Now, I've been here before. This is not an unfamiliar place for me. And I'm going to tell you, what Reverend Tamu said to me was exactly what others have said to me who were ministers and colleagues. And she said, basically, you've given me an example. And um, when I see you, I see Queen Mother. And, she went on and said so many wonderful things in terms of her being inspired and all of that, and how I should just ignore what has happened with other people who have desecrated the title and just continue to be an example and starting something new. And don't you know, that afternoon, and that's when I said, okay, you're right. You're right. And I said, and so that afternoon, I was rereading the Mami Wata book. There are two that are out. And I did not even know that the Mambo who resurrected the Mami Wata tradition here in the Vodun sense transitioned a couple of years ago. Blessings upon her memory and for all the work that she did and the legacy that she brought us. And I have to say, when I started my journey of trying to find out why epilepsy runs in our family and knowing that it had something to do with something spiritual, and then eventually finding out that in many African traditions, including in Kemet, that was considered a form of sacred illness. You can go back and check some of my other videos regarding that, okay? And one of the places I started was in the Mami Wata books. Now, it was in 2006 when I found that, right? And in it, she mentions how the Queen Mothers were the prophets, the prophetesses. The Queen Mothers were the Mami Wata priestesses. And this is who I am. I was initiated as a Nanga in the Shonan Ndebele tradition, and received Simbi when I became initiated in Vodun. Everything became full circle. But you see, all the things that I experienced, again, I found in Kemetic lore and literature and vocabulary. Because I remember after I had all these miracles that happened after the Nanga initiation, I mean, miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle. And then when I found the words that were associated to everything that happened to me, I took them to my my Tefnachur. And I said, can you explain this to me? And he went into spirit and explained everything. No, it was Haitian. So in the Asogwe tradition. So he broke down everything. Everything comes full circle, I find. This is why our ministry is called Shenu, because the Shen or Shenu is the protective circle, but it is also introspection and examination. It is the mirror. It is the pool. It is reflection, and it is also being able to think for yourself. Okay, but recognizing through your intellect and through spirit how everything is interconnected. So now it's brought back to me. The Queen Mothers were the prophetesses. We have a word for what is the word the word that's used in Mami Wata. I put my book away. I always have books out. But anybody think of the word off the top of your head? Wait, look it up, because then I can tell you the correlative. Oh, duau mutnzera and mutnasut chinzera. And let me just read the words that you have here. For some African communities, kingdoms, queendoms, realms, nations, and beyond, not all is as it appears. Queen mothers are responsible for serving and honoring our people in Ma'at. Yes. And duau for the Blessed Queen Mother Anniversary, worthy of deeper reasoning among those ready to live, share, and learn. Duau, duau. Duau. Yeah, it's work. Being a queen mother is work. Okay? There's a responsibility that goes along with it. It is sacred community trust. Mami Wata. It's so convenient to have a phone in your hand, which is a computer in your hand while you're on your computer. Mami Wata. The prophets. There's a name, and I can't believe that I'm not. Listen, I just need to have more like Ginkgo biloba. Sibyls. The Sibyls. So in my research years ago, when I really started tracking it down, because etymology, that's one of my passions, all right, and finding connections. Sibyls, the prophetesses. So we have the word speru, prophet, a prophetess. Sibyl, seperu, Sibyl. The L sound in the Kemetic language sounds like either the rolled R or the rolled R sound in the Kemetic language can sound like either an L or a D. An L or, yeah, that's right. So the comparison is easy to see. So duau for your very common sense slapped me back into reality. Why? Because it would have been like my walking out of the temple. You've gotten in all this far. You've done and experienced that, and this and that and the other. And now you're going to run out? No. Now, I'm not saying I was going to run away from my calling, but yeah, I guess I was. This is the Queen Mother. Listen, you can't just take the Queen Mother title. People are doing that. It's a popular thing, but people don't understand. And people are also conferring that title upon folks. Well, not conferring it, but just very, very in kindness, and also through a lack of understanding, calling a random elder woman a Queen Mother. Well, that's very nice. It's very polite. It's very, very sweet. But it doesn't mean that this is somebody who's been installed and who has taken on the work of owning your own community. You see, that's the thing. You live in the United States, and you go abroad, and you've been told, okay, so now we gave you this title, so you got to take care of us. Instead of saying, go home to your community and feed your community. You take care of home first. You feed your loved ones and family first. Okay? I'm not saying we can't help others, but as Queen Mothers, our concern is with the safety and tradition keeping of our community. That's what it's about. Not an easy task. So as keepers of the culture, and as the community elders and teachers, that means that people should understand and expect that when they see you, that you're going to carry yourself a certain way. Okay, I put that book away too. Yeah, I wanted to share also the passage in, I think it's the book of, let me not guess, but where it stresses the importance of dressing according to your station. So, I was listening to a podcast, with these Christian scholars who have been hearkening their scholarship back to Kemet and validating this, that, and the other. And one of the things that they were talking about was the importance of titles in the community. So if it meant that you were a baker, that's who you were. It was a big deal. Okay. If you were a shepherd, that's who you were. If you were a priest, that's who you were, right? The title tells the community what to expect from you. When you go to your dentist, you are not looking to have your foot fixed. You go to a podiatrist when you want your foot fixed. And how do you know the person's a podiatrist? Because that's their title. So that also meant that when you went to get some pottery and you went to the local potter, the potter is not there wearing royal robes, right? He's wearing the clothing of his trade. If he was sitting up there all nice and clean, not saying that potters get filthy, but the clay, then you'd be wondering, are you really who you say you are? But it doesn't mean that, like, during these times, like today, days like today, when everybody would get dressed up, that was considered important too. That was part of the tradition. So that when people look at you, then, okay, we're all together honoring this sacred time because we've got our new white linens on, or if they couldn't afford the really fine fabrics, and they would do the best they could with flax and turning them into fabric, and getting them as white as they could. Maybe they wouldn't be starch white, stark white, but they would be doggone near, right? But all this to say, I went to City Hall to go conduct some business and to find out some things. And I go through this whole thing every single day about what I should put on. Because, listen, even when you want to be comfortable, still, you want to make sure you're not out there looking shabby. But there are certain times where I recognize it's really important to have on a skirt. And I mean a long skirt for me, right? And a really nice top that looks very cultural, but also looks authoritative. Because when people treat you differently, they do. And so, still wanting to have shoes that are comfortable and all this other stuff, but still looking fly. And I walk a lot. So I want to be able to be comfortable still. Okay, so I got my garb together for going to City Hall. And after that, I stopped in this convenience store. And there was a brother there who was he bowed to me when I walked in. And, so I'm looking through stuff and I'm getting ready to leave. And so then he said, "Excuse me, where are you from?" And so I said, "I was born here." Because I get that all the time. "Where are you from?" People think I'm either from the motherland or from the Caribbean. And actually that I am, but my family's been here since the 1600s, if not before. But what is recorded is our being here since the 1600s. And because of Ancestry.com, and also because of the cultural influences that are still in the family that were unnamed but are still there, we found out that we are from the Caribbean. Okay, we also found out where in the motherland. And a lot of our blood is from Benin. We have Benin and Yoruba culture that is very deeply embedded in my mother's side of the family. So anyhow, so he said, "Oh, I thought you might be from my country." And I forget which country he said he was from in the motherland. But he said, you look like a queen mother. And he said, you're so regal. You remind me of the queen mothers in my country. And I said, "Well, actually, I am a queen mother." So what you convey makes a difference. Big difference. Although there was a time when I was getting ready to go on a date. This is from 10 years ago. This is 2013, 2014. So it was more than 10 years ago. And I had all my sleek black on. Okay. I love black velvet. I love velvet and velour anyway, no matter what color. But I had on my little cute black outfit. I had a little short skirt on. I had on my high black chunky boots, right? And no, it wasn't a skirt. I had on my stretch pants, right? But I was all black with black. and very, looking like I'm getting ready to go. I don't know, but like I was getting ready to go to the club when actually we were getting ready to go to eat or something like that. And I walked out the door, and there was this young man standing there who had been visiting somebody who lived downstairs from me. Right? He looked at me and he said, "You're a minister, aren't you? Will you pray for me?" And he looked like he had just been in a fight. But I said, "How did you know I'm a minister?" He said, "I just feel it from you. The way you carry yourself. Can you pray for me?" So it's not even just the clothing, but the way that we communicate with other people lets folks know. Well, what you communicate to the world lets folks know if you've been inside, if you've been way in the back of the temple, if you've done the work, and if you truly are in service to the community. Because ultimately, when you're talking about priesthood, it is ministry. That's why when people get or become initiated in Shenu, in our ministry, in our Kemetic ministry, they become ordained ministers, card carrying ordained ministers. Same thing with if they go through with becoming a yogini, it is ministry. Especially now more than ever, Kemetic minister, Kemetic yogini is a true calling, yogi or yogini. It's a true calling for healing, and people are so thirsty for it right now because we're still in pain from the pandemic, right? So and also knowing that the moment that you become an initiate, you are called into a different way of living. Now, even though the priesthood typically required for the priests to serve or priestesses to serve 1 month, one season a year. Remember in Kemet, they had 3 seasons and not 4. And their seasons were like 4 months long. After that, you went back to your community. Now, the ones who were in permanent service year round were the high priests. Okay. So, but still being called a priesthood, you were taken care of by the state. And you did what you were called to do. Then you went back home. And, whether you were a baker, a potter, or shepherd, you went back to doing what you needed to do. But still, you still had better carry yourself like you had been inside the temple, because you were still able to help people in your community based on what you knew. Yeah. Your service did not stop. Family life was strongly stressed, but still, it's like if you're a doctor and somebody just faints in front of you, you're gonna step over them? That will go against your oath. And we take an oath. I've seen people who have taken oaths knowing good and well that they were lying through their teeth about who they were, about what their intentions were, and about the dastardly crap that came out right afterwards, because water is a mirror. You cannot play with water. Water will reflect all your stuff right back up to you. If you go to the water trying to get initiated with a lie, trust and believe, it's going to become public. You're going to be shamed. And the water spirits are not going to forget, because water is memory. How dare you go and get baptized knowing good and well that you're presenting yourself for priesthood to get initiated. And I'm not talking about from the very beginning, because there are many different baptisms in this. There is where the initial one of going to the water and declaring that you are stepping into a new way of life, or just in general for cleansing. But for priesthood, and all the different times you get initiated, at least with us, you go through a different baptism. And there's baptism in ponds, baptism in streams, ocean. They're all different. But still, it's water. How arrogant of you to think that you can put one over on the high spirits. Oh no. And you're going there on behalf of yourself and your ancestors. The Necheru are no joke. Simbi, no joke. And you will find out in soon enough time that you've just made yourself a pawn in a game that you can't win. I've seen people that go to the water, and I can always tell, because usually if it's just like, okay, what's next? What's for lunch? They have that kind of an attitude, then like something's wrong. You go, and when we have the actual ceremony and it's all elaborate, it's beautiful, right? And then at the end of it, you sign your paperwork. You take an oath, you read the oath that's on the paperwork, and you must sign it in front of others. There's also another serious vow that you take to set in terms of being true to your family and to your community. You do all this knowing that in your heart you've been pretending to be somebody else, saying what you needed to do. I've had people who were supposed to finish their books. I don't think everybody who had promised they were going to finish their book never did. And that was a requirement for graduating. You know, you write your own book. No, one person. I had one person. But then it turned out that she came with a big lie. After she signed, you know, she does all this, and then she goes and tells me about some dastardly part of her past that she needed to get some help for, and that she definitely did not need to be in priesthood. And at that point, at least I was able to stop. She signed it, but I didn't. I said, I can't sign it. You think it's a joke? You need to go get some help. And don't get upset with me because I won't sign your paperwork. I'm not taking on that karma. Because that's the other thing that people don't realize. You initiate people, you're tied to them. You got to go to some lengths to cut the cords, to cut them off. And in our tradition, it's the same as when folks would just chip the names off the walls, chip off the faces and everything. They're erased. They become erased. And that's for the safety of the people in the temple. You got stank problems and all this other stuff, and you came with a lie. No. You can't bring that to us, and you can't bring that to me, and don't come to me with your problems. Because now you're a new problem. And I poured into you. I poured pure waters into you. Okay? Guess what? In the water spirit tradition, water spirits, they get this, when they're disrespected, right? And you don't come with pure intention, they dry up all that energy and leave. That's a tradition throughout the Caribbean, as you know, when you know the Simbi or the Njusu. And you'll be left worse off than you were before. Don't play with the water. And don't play with those who are trying to pour into you. Because it's not just about you. Just as I was saying with your ancestors and your just actions that you do. You're elevating, then you're bringing everybody else up. But if you're coming in with this, with all this negativity, then you think it's not going to affect us too? Like Pigpen and Charlie Brown. You walk around with, but the funny thing is, you try to cover it up. Eventually it becomes revealed, no, you really like wallowing in the dirt. Well, that's fine. You can go do that over there. You can't come here. So now, how do you stay dedicated once you have made up your mind, once you've decided to stop jumping around from this place to this place to this place? Again, imagine you're welcomed into the temple, okay? You come in, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, and you sneak out, because the whole thing about going behind your teacher's back and taking a class here, and all these people that you're involving in your deception, you know, again, you're not coming as a free spirit. Trisha, how are you this evening? Blessed Resurrection Day to you. So you're not coming. You decided you're dedicating yourself. Okay, you've been welcomed in. I now say Ekwebu, which means come on in the house. Nini, welcome. Okay, you've been told that in the temple. You've been welcomed in as one of the comrades there, but they don't know that you're sneaking out or sneaking around. And it's no different than you're trying to be in a bunch of colleges all at the same time. The teaching institutions back in Kemet were considered spiritual colleges. So going back to the whole thing about trust again. And so you have to ask yourself, what do you really want? And is it really worth creating a bunch of distrust amongst people who eventually are going to find out? Because let me just tell you something. Spirit will always reveal. Always, always, always. It may take some time, but I will always find out. And I don't go digging for nothing, okay? It is always presented to me on a platter. I always find out. It may be my sitting here, and this is something Impressions are real good for. We're sitting and, maybe just doing something or just kind of having meandering thoughts. And then all of a sudden your guides start talking to you. Hey, okay, so now you're ready to hear this. So check this out. So remember when such and such happened? Yeah. And then this and this, and you start connecting the dots. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, wait a minute. And they're basically like, we were just waiting for you to be ready. Yeah. The truth becomes revealed. And then you start figuring out this and this and this and this and this. And this is why it's important to make sure that your first eye is always open too, so that you can listen. This is why we do so much focus on purification too, so that we can be a pure channel, as pure can be. This is why it's important. And I haven't talked too much about this before, but I just started talking about this. It's important to really pay attention to your taboos, because you can be damming up your own system by eating stuff that is just not good for you. I mean, really not good for you. Really, it's just not jiving with your system. Maybe some ancestral stuff attached to it. Where are my machete earrings? I have my machete earrings here to remind me of, first of all, knocking off the sugar. And then also because our ancestors, my ancestors, fought in the, they were enslaved and in the dealing with sugarcane in Haiti, in Puerto Rico, and also in the DR. And diabetes runs in the family. No more processed sugar. It runs deep. So as we continue here, with everybody focused, please, on the topic at hand and staying consistent. My aids, chest, my aids, and receiving chest. Where are you? Are you in and out of the temple? Do you really want to be deeper inside, but you're afraid? Or is it that you don't really understand the seriousness of the process? Is it because you don't want to give up the ego? You're afraid. Fear, it's understandable. We're talking about being programmed a certain way for many of us. Many of us didn't grow up in ATRs or in ancestral indigenous traditions. And in reclaiming, that means you have to shed your skin, just like the serpent. In the story of the shipwrecked sailor, it's much deeper than people realize. That's an initiation story. I'll break that down another day. It's deep. It's deep. So now again, and before we do our kesu or hui karest, is it about not wanting to give up bad habits, addictions, people with attitudes? Is there a fear of being around people who are going to support you, who are going to call you on the carpet when you are acting out? We brought up Bekhen-t last time. And Trisha had said that she was gifted with a frog. And I was explaining how it's the frog is an initiation symbol and means rebirth. The term Bekhen-t, to be born again. This is the holy water that I use for blessing myself. And also this is what I use when I do initiations, when someone is being rebirthed. Because when you go into the temple and when you're being taken in as an initiate, or even if you're going in just seeking spiritual help, it's a rebirthing process. And it begins in the mind. And one of the symbols also associated, and I say this is holy water because it has Bekhen-t on it, the meta nature that I put on here. With Hecate or Heket, she has a chest that is is known as, just to be very frank here, it's known as a coffin for the skull. Okay. What it symbolizes is letting your head be detached so it can be replaced with a new head for rebirth, putting away those things that were familiar, thinking out of the box so that you're more deeply attached to spirits, to your guides, to your ancestors. Remember last time I shared about the beautiful frog. The beautiful frogs are the ones that are the poisonous ones. In nature, you don't touch them. Yet there are people who go into all kinds of rainforests looking for them and licking the poison off their back because they're looking for a high. And they experience the last high they'll ever have in their life because they end up killing themselves. That's some foolishness, you know? That's some real school phasing garbage, you know? It's also a level of, what's the word that I want to use? Stupidity. But the notion of answering the call. And remember, the beautiful frog represents also the high. Goodness gracious, Shermead, how are you? So, the beautiful frog represents when you become very highly elevated and you become just radiantly beautiful. But it's also a warning that not everybody can touch you. You need to work harder at protecting your space. That also happens though once you step into spiritual life and you decide that you're going to seriously change yourself or allow spirit to change you. It's your spiritual crew, your Paut Netru works with you. People see there's something different about you and want to pull you down. But those who are sincere will do everything they can to help you on your elevation journey. And ideally, you come across more people who are on that path too. Sometimes it's lonely, but you put the energy out there to have people come along who are going to help to be supportive to you and who are going to give you love, affirm you, validate you, encourage you. You'll find your walk gets a little easier. Actually, a lot easier. That's where it's important to build a community too. And then once you go through your different levels and once you have proven that all of the little things that you had before or things that were big things that get taken from you, because I explained also that when you get to this level, when you start dealing with her, she starts taking stuff from you, but it's for your growth. The coffin for the skull then becomes your treasure chest. And all the things that were lost come back to you. And you may find that there are certain things you've outgrown. You don't need them anymore. Okay? And she is another aspect of Het Heru, Hathor. Okay? Veiled Goddess, welcome. Says, I had a dream of a man at an iron pot telling me no when I was trying to eat crawfish on my birthday graduation day. Uh-oh. I feel that. Now, here's the thing. Is it that he didn't want you to use the iron pot for eating and that he wanted you to use it for tradition? Because Palo uses the iron pot. They call it Nanga. The Nanga in the Shona Ndebele tradition is the healer. The Nanga in Palo is the pot, the healing pot. So it may be he was trying to tell you, listen, we want to use it for something else. Or it could have been like, yeah, what you eating that crawfish for? Crawdads up in here now. So you need to inspect that a little more closely. It's funny, on your birthday graduation day, see, no accident. Like, listen, it's time to put that down. You get to find out which the emphasis was for. Was it the crawfish or was it the pot? And yeah, I had a bunch of stuff I had just bought. I mean, oh my goodness. I just bought some salmon, had some frozen salmon. Listen, I love Aldi. They have wonderful gourmet things, okay? And at a discount. Those are two of my favorite words, gourmet and discount, okay? So I just bought salmon and there were some other things. And I found out that they were taboos for me. So what I ended up doing was just taking the packages down the street where there is a refrigerator for people who are food challenged. And I left it there. No fuss, no fight. Okay. Because listen, when you go against your taboos, you can really, 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 really cross yourself up. I mean, really. It's the last thing you want. You may be forcing yourself to indulge in all kinds of certain dairy products and so forth, only to find out that, say you have Taino blood. Tainos and some other groups, but Tainos are lactose intolerant. So it may be your body telling you, we don't do this. So Um, why was which a taboo? Glad you're back, Joanne. Um, everybody's different. Everybody's got a different, set of prohibitions that they come into the world with. Once you get spiritually attuned and you're on the path where you're aware of that, then you see how because on the one hand, taboos can tear you down. If you indulge in the taboo, it can tear you down because the fact that you may need to have it later to repel something. Okay, so like you may have been told, okay, you have to have very, very low salt or no salt. Why? Well, because it can be used as a weapon. You throw across your window sills, across your doors. And also, there may be a time where you need to have something with salt in it to fortify you as protection against something that somebody may be throwing at you. If it's something that your body gets used to because you eat it all the time, then it's not going to work. The effectiveness is gone. It has lost its efficacy. So there's that side of it too. Okay. And yeah, and generally when you see people wearing machetes, it's because it's the reminder. Well, I can't speak for everybody. Some people just, hey, what can I say? But for people who are cultural in the culture, especially in the Caribbean, you'll find that there are folks who wear this in tribute to their ancestors, and also as a reminder of it being a prohibition. What does it mean when a Simbi? Well, there are a bunch of different spellings, so you're good. Gives you a gift, a small bag that I put in my a small bag that I put my hand in and was bitten by something. Elaborate. So you were given a gift. Clarify that for me so I can understand it better, please. And it's good to see you back. It's good to see you. Bill Goddard says, yes, I was like, no, crawfish are my favorite thing to eat, but I also don't have a thyroid gland. So it may have been for my health. I'm sure it was a health thing then. Absolutely. It was a baby snake attached to one of my fingers, like a ring. Mami Wata has her ways of calling people. And Mami Wata has various names and various traditions, but she is still Mami Wata. And the significators are generally very similar. So that looks like it was very much a calling. This is a time, especially with everything that's going on in the world, where we're finding a lot of folks who were kind of dormant in their path or either not aware of their path and feeling as though it's time for them to move into something, that they're waking up to their purpose because you're needed. We are needed. The healers are needed. The people of the water, we are really truly needed because it is through, how do I put this? Put this in a really guarded way. I'm going to encourage you to do your research. And I know there's some people who are just like, oh, that's a cop out if you say do your research. No, it doesn't mean I don't know. It means I ain't talking about it right now. And I'm encouraging people to go and start doing research for themselves because it's empowering. This is why I teach about doing research when I have students, because I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong. Or if I'm right, you still want to be able to justify it. Or you could find something that's even deeper, that is information that's necessary for us to be able to move forward in our work or in deeper understanding of something, you see? Okay. All right. Are we good? We ready for our Huey Crest? We have many resurrection stories. Exactly. No shortcuts, as Joanne says. You have to do the work. No shortcuts. There are no shortcuts to wisdom. None. Just like with any job that you have, you got to learn the ropes. And if you really expect to get promoted, that means that you have to show mastery in the level that you've been in before you can move on and be trusted with something else. Although there's a whole lot of people in different situations who get handed titles and duties that they don't deserve. You know, if you look at the story of the eloquent peasant, he ends up getting harassed by these two thugs in government who had names, you know, who had titles, who clearly did not deserve them. I mean, these two thugs that took his stuff, they were messing around instead of being at work. But that's the way it is. We've seen people who have gotten promotions and titles and so forth who had no right to them at all, yet they walk around with an attitude of entitlement and no foundation for it. This is again where the integrity piece comes in. This is again where dedication comes in, clarity, so that you're very clear on what your heart and your mind are saying. IB, that's intention, that's integrity, heart, mind, what you think, and how you conduct yourself after you continue on your journey. Yes, in the dream, an elderly woman gave me the bag, okay? The snake was dangling from my finger. I flung it off and ran. The old woman came to help me, but moved very serpentine. Yes, well, you know, if you want to have a consultation regarding the water tradition and to see if it's where you're supposed to be, because, you know, Chenu, we are a Kemetic water temple. We are the official Kemetic water temple. And I also want to just say this to folks who may have Kemetic temples, don't know the first about the water path, the Kemetic water path, because it's a lot. And you don't know the protocols for how to approach the water. You can't just walk up to the water and just get in and just say, I'm going to do this. There are certain things you must do. When you enter the water, when you leave the water, you have to know what to say. You have to know what to bring, okay? Because you can't just show up in the water and expect to just come out with, you have to bring certain offerings. You know, you have to. It's hubris on your part if you just think you can just get into the water and just copy what you've seen somebody else do or what you've seen on videos, or, you know, just to even take a stab at it. No, that's foolishness. And if there's anybody out there who is claiming that they know about the Kemetic water tradition and about the water tradition in general, here's where you really got to do your homework. Dig, investigate. Who initiated you? How long ago? What path did you learn? What will I get from studying from you? There was a priestess one time who was telling me that she was a fire priestess and she was having all kinds of problems in her life where everything was just being dried up. And I said, well, you're supposed to balance the water, the fire with the water. Just like with water, well, actually with water, you have to know all the elements. And if you're really a master, if you are a master, if you have self mastery, if you have mastery in a particular element, that means you need to really know them all. But in particular, if you are a person of fire, then you have to do balancing out rituals. And also, people of water have to understand the power of fire. You know, just like you've got two sides of the same coin with Het Heru and with Sekhmet, And in Vodun tradition with Uzuli Freda Dahomey and Uzuli Dantor, one is Rada tradition, which is all that's my tribe. You know, all very we know how to fight, but we do it in a way that's different. You know, we're not like you know, no, we fight differently. You know, this is where we fight here, and also with mysticism on a higher on a different level. With the Petwo tradition is fire, right? Yet the Azulis, they are all the same. They're all considered water. And so Uzuli Freda is like the Sekmet. No, she's like the Hathor or Heteru, and Uzuli Dantor is like Sekmet. You know, but it's two sides of the same coin, and you need both. You need both. Water and fire make steam. Steam makes things happen. Okay. So yeah. So if you have anybody who's trying to tell you that, listen, you just really need to investigate and make sure it's not one of these things where it's a fly-by-night thing where you show up, you pay your money, and then you have you have the title of whatever priest. No. Here's the last thing I want to say. I want to remind people, because again, I'm really focusing on my taboos, and I'm not supposed to be doing anything for free. And Lord knows I've given away so much stuff, so much information and so forth. You know, I called a colleague the other day, and I need to do this so I can get on his call too, because he's doing something tonight. I called a colleague for his advice on something, because he's older than me, and also I knew that he had the information that I needed, and you know, it was a friendly call too. It was a check-in call, but still. And so when we finished, I asked him, I said, do you have Cash App or, you know, naming Zelle, you know? And so he said, why? I said, because you just gave me your time and your expertise, and I need to make sure that I share something with you. So he said, oh, you don't have to do that, you know? But see, that's the polite thing to say. The right answer for me, the wrong answer for me would have been like, oh, well, okay, thanks. No. I told him, I'm going to send you a donation. And I had just done a gig, and, you know, I sent him the gig money. So, and I'm, you know, because it's the right thing to do. Please do not I've done that too, you know, which is like, oh, you don't have to, that's okay. But really, because the fact that you can't just walk into your doctor's office and just say, you know, I need you to hook me up, and then you walk out and not expecting the doctor to get their compensation. We are living in some very serious times now, especially because, like I had said about stalkers before, and some of them will just stalk you so they can get information and turn around and go on their platform and parrot what you said. This is not about being money hungry. This is not about being greedy. This is about what is right. If you have been blessed by someone, then make sure that you honor that in a way that is right. Okay. Whether it's through texts or, you know, I mean, I've had discourses with people and have had to remind people, and I'm proud of myself. This is because of therapy. Okay. Being able to be more assertive with that. We learned the difference between being assertive and aggressive, right? But and then there's passive, there's assertive, there's aggressive. But in learning to be more assertive and being able to say, so listen, you know, glad you were blessed. Donations are graciously accepted. And here's my PayPal, here's my Zelle, you know, here's my Cash App. Thank you. You know? Yeah. Thank you, Reverend Queen Mother Jackson. I arrived home safe. I'm so glad you did. Thank you for the teaching. Oh, dwoe, dwoe. Okay. I'll text that to you, okay? Dwoe. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Okay. Yeah, for those who want my Zelle, um, if I know you, then I'll give you my Zelle. If I don't know you, then I'll give you my Cash App and my PayPal. Okay. I don't want to put my Zelle up here on um, because that I think y'all understand. Okay. So, but for those who want to do Cash App, my Cash App is, I see you, Courtney. Um, oh yeah. Okay. Here's what I should have some nice music playing. Courtney, this is where you can help me with this, okay, in the future. This is my Cash App. And again, I want to remind people, please don't get offended. If you call me, then you must identify yourself. I don't answer calls for people that I don't know. If you, same thing with texting. If you just text me, hey, what's up, or whatever, then I'm not going to reply because I don't know who you are. And I've gotten in trouble with people from the past who came at me that way and were able to get their foot in the door because, my thing was, okay, so who are you, or whatever. No. So we have to follow the protocols here. Okay. People who do know me also, sometimes it takes a little time for me to call back. There are times when people reach out to me and I will literally be passed out on the couch. It'll be early. Oh, my PayPal. And I'll wake up the next day, and at some point when I remember, I turned my phone off, or I'm so knocked out where I can't even hear my phone. And but then I realized later, oh well, let me just check, and I'm like, oh shoot, look at these calls I missed, So thank you all for those of you who know, right? Be patient, and so PayPal, okay. I pray every day for, and this is something I had to learn also from a sage. Remember to pray for yourself first. This is like when you're in an airplane, they tell you to put the mask on yourself first and then help somebody else, because what good is it going to do if you fall out? I pray for myself first, then my family, well, myself, my children, my family, my spiritual family. Okay. My ancestors. Yes, I pray for my ancestors. I pray for my friends and associates on earth and in heaven. With the spiritual family, my krednitship, my godchildren are included. Then I go on. I pray for my neighborhood, my town, my city, rather, for our country, and for our world. Every day. And that's something that hopefully you should get into the habit of doing as well, so that after praying for those who are dear to you. First, you pray for yourself, then those who are dear to you. Don't forget your ancestors, but pray for your neighborhood, pray for your country, and pray for our world. Your prayers mean much, and there's power in unified prayer. Don't forget to pray for your water source. Always, always, always. Your air and your water. Okay. Time for Huey Kadest. And Duawu for those of you who are here. And that's a lesson for you all as well. Recognize your worth, be willing to accept and expect fair compensation, okay? Especially those of us, we as women, Lord, we do that all day long. I mean, really, in so many different circumstances. Okay. Can I possibly do this without my glass? No, I'm not going to take a chance. Renenutet teaches you not to put yourself in a situation where you could possibly deeply embarrass yourself. So, listen, my glasses. Okay. By the way, some of you may wonder why I wear shawls or shawl-like garments, and that's in association with Renenutet, who is one of the Sembi in our tradition. And so she would bless the garments of the king. Blessings and protection were infused, if you will. So it represents that. Pray over your clothes too. Yeah. Kesu Huikarest. The sacred supper of Huikarest, known today as Eucharist, was created in ancient Kemet. The priests and priestesses of Osset honored the resurrection of King Wasir and the resurrection of life. We all face personal levels of resurrection daily. As we learn the lessons of this life, we strive to grow, leave behind the old and unnecessary habits and behaviors, and move forward into higher consciousness. The blood that flows through our veins is of our ancestors. Huit represents the DNA, the ancestral blood that reaches back into the beginning of time. I had a very interesting discussion yesterday with somebody about representation of DNA. There are a lot of spiritual symbols in Kemet that also have various layers. Okay, just so you know, you'll see something and it means this at first. Then you'll see that as you get further along in your growth, you realize, oh wait, it means this too. Especially if you're a mystic. Then you'll find that certain things are opened up in a whole new way. And that's because the symbols have meaning and power. Okay. Okay. In African culture, we refer to the river of ancestors. The blood, or senef, of our ancestors flows through each of us, as our blood will flow through future generations. It is an endless stream. As we call upon the light and wisdom of our high ancestors, or Yaku, our blood becomes purified. As such, we are mindful of giving respect, Shaisha, to senef, the blood. When we become spiritually awakened, we take our places within the awakened body of consciousness, Christ consciousness, Keres consciousness. Keres means the mummified remains or body wrapped in swaddling strips. Death to the old, yet spirit lives on. It has victory over death. We, in our spiritual growth, have victory over death and in life as we put emphasis on spirit and are not stuck in matters of the flesh and mundane. The bread, ta, symbolizes the body or keres. Please hold up your bread and repeat after me. Necheru, bless this bread of life. Semek necheru mishet ankh pen. I am the bread of life. Anuk mishet ankh. I am the body of awakened consciousness. Anuk kerest. My body is sacred. Kati jaser. My spirit is of nature. Kani in nature. Thank you, nature. Tuau nature. Unem, eat. Please hold up your cup and repeat after me. Necheru, bless this blood of life. Semek necheru, senef ankpen. My blood flows from the river of ancestors. Senefi sefsef ni im iaku. Webi, purify me. Thank you, Nichir. Dwa Nichir. Baba, drink. Please hold up your cup. This cup is also you. It is a sacred chalice. You, like the cup, are a sacred vessel. Be mindful of what you fill your life with. Your life is sacred. Repeat after me. I am a sacred vessel. Anuk imaku. My life is sacred. Anki jaser. Amen. Amen. Amenit. Usually this concludes our service, but I forgot that I need to pull a symbol for us for the week. Let me add my little production value here. Okay, I am using my my deck that I created, the Shenu Renu deck, which is the Kemetic Rune Oracle deck. For those of you who are new, I did research some years ago, tracing the symbols of the Germanic and Scandinavian runes back to the Hapi Valley. Okay. Woos. Woos. This is the blanket that is found or was drawn on and found on the seats of royals. The blanket is an enhancer, and even as you say, it enhances. So the blanket also represents security, as you know. And the question is it a royal blanket, where it was of fine fabric, or it was made of animal hide and it was well groomed and taken care of as though it was alive and taken care of so that it would reflect the best and do its job to the best degree of enhancing the royals, whether it was through the wearing of it and giving greater significance, or the very basic use of it to enhance the body. Blankets warm us. Think of what it's like when it's cold, and you ever have one of those nights where you go to bed and all of a sudden the temperature changes and you don't have enough blankets on the bed and you have to go and snatch a blanket, or even just being able to sit and have your little comfort blanket wrapped around you, or big comfort blanket. Being neurodivergent, comfort blankets are a big deal. And when you have a weighted blanket, it gives you even greater security. So what is your blanket like? Is it threadbare, falling apart? Is it just barely doing its job? From an energetic standpoint, because this represents energy, what needs enhancing in your life? What needs improving? Perhaps you need warmth in some place of your life. So this reminds us about accepting warmth and making sure that we are truly being nurtured with what we use to enhance us. Everybody got that? Everybody say oos, oos. That's something that's said in martial arts circles. And in our lineage, when we would greet each other, we would cross our arms like this and then open up and say woos. So okay. If there aren't any questions about this, then that concludes. Oh, look at all the messages here. She's Muse. How are you? Oh, Muchaya. I know that name. Give thanks and praise. And I hope that you had a really wonderful day with your family. Continue to keep you in prayer, and everybody, for all of my godchildren and for everybody who is here. I really hope that you've had a wonderful day and that you'll have a wonderful, wonderful week. And so with that, we say, Meria, which means much love. Heri, which means to be at peace. Teni, which means to be accountable. Jebewi, which means to be merciful and compassionate in the right ways without overdoing it, okay? And finally, as I remember my father on this day, because he would always say to me, stay sweet. And so, Mennejem.